you so much, Marika,
Thank you.
and Hank also for your quantum agriculture, the good work that you do with that, and thank you so much for inviting us. And for your lovely introduction. We really appreciate it. And we thank everyone who is here, and we thank everyone who is also going to be watching the recording for taking the time to learn something about what we're doing. There. Okay. So the name of our talk today is the intro. It's the intro to the 3-day course that we will be teaching in May live in the Netherlands. And it's about becoming an enlightened steward of trees, plants, crops, forests, really the whole plant kingdom and also ecosystems. And today we're going to be covering new sciences, new thinking, new methods, and new results. And we know that you may have questions along the way, but we thank you for holding them until the end because we don't want to go into a lot of detail. We hope you will simply understand the high points and then grasp the flow of what we're saying in each of these areas. And we do also ask you to mute yourselves, please. Okay, so let's begin with a little bit about each of us. So I'm Basia Alexander, and I'm the champion of partnering with nature and paradigm jumping. And I don't want to teach just information and skills. What my goal is to transform the ways people think and feel about their relationship with green beings, to go beyond this thought that trees and plants just do something for us humans. Tell a little story. This big spruce was severely pruned and was bleeding sap out of every cut. The tree could have gone into decline and could have died, the big spruce. And the property owner, what I love about our work is that the property owner was able to be involved with the whole healing process. Dr. Jim and I returned many times to restore the healthy inner functionality of this tree. And the property owner was right by our side at the time. And
she was devastated by this.
Yes.
Okay. She was devastated. She loves this tree. And she was devastated by this. Go ahead.
Yes. So the tree would stop losing so much of its precious fluids. And that just shows the kind of relationship that Dr. Jim and I have with trees and the relationship that we teach other people to have. We want to empower people to be able to help trees and plants overcome inner health problems or human interferences, such as this bad pruning. And the trees then get back to living, growing, and reaching their own goals, as all the trees and plants should. So it's very satisfying for people to go beyond human-centeredness. In other words, people thinking about what trees and plants can do for them instead move to a more mutual partnership where they have more of a give and take. And I want to inspire people to do this. I believe in acts of mutual partnership and learning to give healing methods to trees and plants. And by the way, this picture is a good example of how we like to teach outdoors in a hands-on way directly with the trees and plants.
So my goals are is I want to save trees and plants by healing their internal functionality. Very simple. I don't want to improve the tree care, plant care, or farming businesses. I know some of you are farmers out there. Some of you are tree care people. Some are plant care. I'm not here to improve it. What I am here to do is I want to transform people's methods of interacting with the green beings so that the green beans can accomplish the green beans goals and everybody wins. Look, I came out of the chemical business. Okay. I was in the chemical business for 30 years. And I know all about a lot of stresses in trees and plants. I know in crops. I've walked many soybean fields when the weather turned off cold and wet. Okay, and the soybeans are just sitting there yellow, and they sit there for 10 days to 2 weeks, just sitting there yellow. And the farmer can't do anything about it. He has to wait for them to grow out of it. That's because the internal functionality of the plant is not operating correctly. Okay, so got stressed. So what I'm trying to teach people to do is get in touch with that internal functionality, get in touch with the tree and plant to help correct those situations so the tree or the plant wins and the farmer wins. Same thing with the trees and plants, or with trees. Trees are under extreme stress from climate extremes. Okay, and longer term warming, and that's affecting the trees, that's affecting their internal functionality. Yes, in climate extremes the extreme goes away, but that doesn't mean the internal functionality instantly heals. Okay, so what we're teaching people to do is get in touch with the trees and plants to help heal that internal functionality, so then the trees and plants can go on and thrive and reach their goals. You see, the thing is with trees, they get stressed and they might not show the stress for 3 or 4 years. And then by then the insects and diseases have come along. So this is what we're doing, saying, get work with the trees and plants, repair that internal functionality early, get them back operating again so they can reach their goals, then everybody wins. So my this is a little bit more. I explained a little bit of this already. I have a PhD in plant pathology, 30 years in the ag chemical business, but and working with the crops, I all of a sudden felt like there had to be a better way, and that's when Bosch and I developed this called tree whispering. Became a certified organic land care professional. We've been developing this tree whispering system for many years to bring back holistic balance within the internal functionality of trees and plants, and then also between the trees and plants and the whole ecosystem. And we want to teach people a better way. We want to teach people this better way to learn how to do this. So this is a tree I often visit. I've been working with these trees for about 10 to 14 years. And what their goal is they want to hold the community together. They are really there to hold that community of those local trees together, and they're sharing food energy and fluid energy with those trees and trying to really hold that community, all those trees together. They're on an estate, large estate, and that's what their kind of their purpose is. But there's also another factor here. Okay, what we call biovalue, whole greater than the sum of its parts. Now, I've worked on these trees. I've worked with the internal functionality of these trees for many years. Whole greater than the sum of its parts means the whole operating system in the tree is operating, and the goal is, what happens is the tree is operating greater than the sum of its parts, and then the whole community gets into that same biovalue, whole greater than the sum of its parts. All right. And that's how nature exists, and nature can move forward with its overall goals. This is a tree I've some trees I worked with in California. They again, what's the goal of these trees? They just want to be healthy. These live at about 5 to 7,000 feet, these giant sequoias. This one happens to be about 2006 years old. And you might say, well, that's kind of exact, Jim. Yeah, it is, because I was sitting there one day and a guide came by and said to the tree, well, it's about 2,000 years old. And the tree said, well, this was a few years ago. Tree says, I'm 2004. Thank you very much. So wanted people to know just how old it was. But again, it's about repairing. What's going on is it's warming going up the mountains. So the trees are becoming more and more stressed. Their internal functionality is becoming more and more stressed. So as they become more and more stressed, then they're more susceptible to insects and diseases. then the trees go into a decline cycle. So what we're doing is working with the internal functionality of the trees to help the trees be stronger so that they're less susceptible to these insects or diseases.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's what our goals are for this introduction. The first thing we want to say is that everything you're doing with your crops, with your trees, is good. We're here to invite you to expand your thinking about primarily three things: who trees and plants really are, how trees and plants operate on the inside. So we're, as Dr. Jim has been saying, taking a look at the health of trees and plants on the inside, and to discover who you are in relationship to trees and plants. So very clearly, this is not a how-to kind of talk.
What we want to teach you to do
Whoops.
is use your knowledge. Look, you guys, especially if you're a farmer, you know your crop. You know what you're doing to your crop. We're not saying, hey, you got to change that. All we're saying is use the knowledge you have to ask the right questions. Same thing with the tree care people. Use the knowledge you have to ask the right questions. Find out what's going on inside of that tree or plant, so you're able to help it heal it from the inside out. Then you can go on and work with it and bring it back to full health again.
Exactly. So let's cover a few of the new sciences. Okay, so at the website partnerwithnature.org, you can go there and search on the words reading list, and you'll find a reading list of so many science topics. You can also buy, for very inexpensive, this little booklet at our online school. It's called Relevant Sciences Supporting Tree Whispering, and this is at biobaliainstituteschool.org. And there's a lot of videos on our YouTube channels and some free courses there as well. Eco Upshift channel, Partner with Nature, and at the Tree Whisperer _ Jim Conroy. So there's a lot that you can find there on your own. Let's ask a question. Are trees and plants alive and intelligent? In this book, Dr. Capra showed how the new sciences are similar to the things ancient peoples knew about spirituality and their physical world. In our healing work with the inner functionality of trees and plants, we directly apply his three main points in this book. Everything is energy. All energy and matter are connected at deep levels, and holistic and systems thinking is used. And there's some support material there on the side of the slide. But let me add that the spirituality of our work would actually require another whole talk. Both Dr. Jim and I experience a deep spiritual connection with trees and plants, and we're both guided by spirit guides and spirit masters in this work. We encourage people to develop their spiritual connection with trees and plants when we teach what we call the 4 C's: connection, communication, collaboration, and co-creation. 3 more new sciences. Stephen Buhner has talked about trees and plants using the electromagnetic spectrum, that's bioenergy, to send signals for over 2 billion years. Dr. Bruce Lipton says all cells, all living cells are intelligent. Their membranes are membranes. He uses a play on words there. And again, Dr. Capra says that living system sciences has been redefined. Trees and plants operate in feedback loops. They go through dynamic change but maintain a stable structure, and they show intelligence or cognition. Well, The Society for Plant Signaling and Behavior is a group of scientists worldwide that has proven plant intelligence. And you can go to plantbehavior.org. And I want to show you these 4 points that they have proven. And I'd like to show you that with our children's book, which is one of 7 books that we have written. So, you know how tall ash trees are. And this ash tree told us that it has made a kind of a behavioral choice to grow more roots on its uphill side so that the wind would not blow it over. Air is my friend, but the wind blows hard. I'm afraid I will fall over, so I want to grow more roots on my uphill side. That's what the tree told us.
This beech tree manages plants intelligently manage their inner resources. So what's going on here is, well, this is what the tree is saying. I use less energy growing new branches. I get rid of the old useless branches and just grow new leaves and branches. Please be patient with me. I am on tree time. What's going on with the trees is they're saying is, look, the vascular tissue sometimes in a branch will get plugged up. Therefore, the tree has to use a lot of energy to send life force and food and fluid into that branch. And it's saying, look, that's not efficient for me. I can use less energy to grow a new branch than I can to work with this older plugged up branch. So what the tree does, it cuts off the energy to that branch, lets it pass on, die, and puts all of its energy into growing a new branch. That's what it does. And it's intelligently using their inner resources.
Well, plants have goals and they know whether they're meeting their goals or not. So this spruce says, I want to be healthy on the inside so I can be a blue spruce on the outside. It's my goal. What's yours? So plants are information processing organisms as well.
These are some cabbages. They want to grow in community. Um, in the trees world, one trunk is not a tree. Okay. So they grow in community. Same thing with the crop. Guess what? They're growing in community. Okay. Plants, and they have a complex community communication system. About the best we can do in science is see the underground mycorrhizae or when the roots touch. Nope, that's not all there is. Trust me. But this is what's going what the cabbages said anyway. We cabbages grow as a community, just as trees do. All of us together live and interact as one big plant, even though we might look separate. Okay, same thing with trees. Trees live in community, and one of the major problems is when that community. First of all, the tree gets sick, and when a bunch of trees get sick, then they fall out of community. Then they're all trying to operate singly, and what happens is that whole greater than the sum of its parts all gets broken up both within the trees and between the trees, and then the trees start going in decline and the forest starts going in decline.
We have another question. Can humans communicate with plant intelligence? Well, we all know that of course the answer is yes, but let us show you some of the science that's relevant to this. Lynn McTaggart tells the story of how this scientist's work shows that there is a two-way flow of information between living beings. The scientists at heartmath.org have been working for over 30 years to prove that the human heart, produces a bioenergy field that can be measured many feet away from the body. Why is this important? Because bioenergy fields overlap, and this has been proven. So on the top, bioenergy fields of people overlap and impact each other. Two people don't even have to be touching, and their heart rhythm can come into coherence. Bioenergy fields of all living beings overlap, and that is how they share information. And lastly, when people and plants touch or are close to each other, information is shared and exchanged in those overlapping fields. And Dr. Jim uses this to speak with trees and then to speak for trees.
Temperature's changing, warming, going up the mountain. We can't move. Temperature fluctuations are difficult to handle. My circulation is very, very blocked. I'm not growing all that much. I'd really like to be actively growing. Because when I'm actively growing, then I'm actively in community with the other trees. I have a consciousness, and my consciousness is telling me I want to be healthy, I want to grow. We have a job to do. We care for the smaller trees. We give them food and water. Our combined energies, giant squares with other trees, make a forest. We all must be connected and working as one.
That was on a recent trip to California. Okay. So there's, where am I here? The Institute of Noetic Sciences has been studying consciousness for over 40 years. And they say these two things and more in their position statement. Consciousness comes before form, and consciousness has a causal influence.
Basia,
Yes?
what Dr. Jim was just saying there, not everybody has heard it. So maybe about talking to what the tree is saying.
Yes. Um,
Can you repeat it,
they'll
please?
just have to go onto the YouTube channel if they want to hear it there. He said things a lot like what he's been saying about all trees and plants. So we apologize. I guess it didn't come over very well on
Yeah,
Zoom.
that's right. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sorry. We thought we'd give it a try, and I guess it didn't work. So, oh yes, and so we have something to say about the overlap of consciousness as well in our book called Live and Let Live, Enlightened Stewardship.
So humans have a brain and rational thinking. Plants' consciousness is its guiding light. That consciousness drives its goals and purposes. It's both for all trees and all plants. The consciousness drives its goals and purposes. Go ahead. So consciousness is the guiding light that contains the tree or plant's goals, ideal design, potentials, and purposes. Okay, the consciousness holds that an oak tree is an oak tree and it's going to put on acorns. Holds on that an apple tree is an apple tree and it's going to put on apples. We don't want apples on the oak tree or acorns on the apple tree. Okay? Consciousness drives all that. That's the guiding light of the parts, systems, and functions. So consciousness is the guiding light that can change the tree's goals, trees and plants' goals, ideals, design and potentials and purposes. This is a tree at Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York. We've worked on this tree for many years. In fact, we used to teach there for 15 years. We taught there before COVID hit, and we're the only ones that are allowed to work on this tree. The president has us working with this tree all the time, and that tree has a goal. It wants to be a greener and wants to be the centerpiece of that walkway right in there. And it's just a beautiful tree. Again, these are some cabbages. Again, big cabbages want to be big cabbages. And it isn't just one cabbage, it's all the cabbages. Remember, they work in community. That's the important piece here. These are some trees in California, burned redwoods after one of the large forest fires in California. Okay. And you can see how the redwoods were burned on the left and how they gradually came back on the right. Again, what happens with trees and plants when they're burned, they get disconnected, they get all disoriented, and they get disconnected from where their resources are. They get completely mixed up, and it's to work with them, help them out, help them regain that consciousness again, to get back connected again, their internal functionality connected again, and then they can begin to grow again. And the whole idea is to get them to put out new leaves, new needles in this case, so that they can begin to grow again and make more food for themselves. That's what we're trying to do. Consciousness gives form to all the parts. Very important. So we have all the parts, gives forms the plant, how it needs to be formed. Go ahead, Basia. Yeah. So you get your roots, your trunk and your branches, and then your leaves. And we show a cross section here of a branch or a trunk. Again, you have that right underneath the bark. You have the phloem, and then you have the xylem. Xylem is up. Xylem is primarily up. Phloem is primarily down. Okay, all underneath the bark of a tree, and you have the same thing occurring in crops. So consciousness combines all parts into systems using those already formed parts. Okay, so you have your food making system, photosynthesis. Consciousness brings back the leaves, then you can start to make your leaves, start to make your food, photosynthesis. You have your xylem and phloem, you can have your circulation. You have your roots, you can have your uptake system. But then it's important to have all of them connected. Okay, they can't operate separately. They all got to be connected, because that's the only way the tree is going to survive, or the plant is going to survive. So the example as we use here is food making capacity inside of a tree. Photosynthesis, tree uptakes water and nutrients, carries it up through the xylem, carries it out to the leaves. The leaves make the food and move the food around inside of the tree in the circulation system. Go ahead. Consciousness also drives functions. Functions are the jobs of parts systems working together. What are some of the functions? The functions are growth, preparing for dormancy, reproduction, those kind of things. Okay, so it drives consciousness, drives functions. So consciousness, as you can see, is in charge of all of these things. They guide the parts, systems, and functions to come together. They guide the parts to come together to form. So you have the systems, and the systems to come together to have the functions. And then what I call biobalia occurs within the trees or crop, and between them, a whole greater than the sum of its parts. And these are the three main sustaining life functions. We put this in. We tell people all the time, this is kind of a general slide, make more food, driving clear circulation, grow. Making food, circulating water fluids and food, and growing. Those are the three main functions, the life-sustaining functions in trees and plants. So this is some work I'm doing now. In deep physiological detail, I find out what parts aren't working and learn their interrelationships. So a part not working inside of a tree or a plant doesn't mean it's broken. It might mean that a related part or parts aren't connected or working properly, therefore causing the original part to not work right. All about interrelationships. So here's what happens. Somebody might say, well, I'm not getting any uptake in the roots, and so therefore we got to grow more roots. In fact, conventional wisdom or conventional work might say we got to dump a growth regulator on the roots of the tree to get those roots to grow. And maybe that's not the problem. Maybe the problem is in the xylem and phloem, and maybe the circulation in the xylem and phloem isn't connected to the uptake in the roots. So maybe that's what's going on. Is the problem might be in the xylem and phloem tissue uptaking and circulating the water and nutrients, and therefore the roots aren't working properly as far as doing the uptake. So it's all about interrelationships, and it's about working with them. And we're going to be talking more about this when we teach the course. But this is kind of what we're going to be saying and giving you some insight into all of this. I'll give you a little insight more into this. Just a little thing. We have a problem in the United States right now with a disease called beech leaf disease. Very big problem. And what it is, it's a nematode. A nematode is a microscopic roundworm. Usually nematodes are not a big problem in the trees, okay? But they are in this because they get into the buds of the tree. They're either carried in the wind or birds or whatever. And they're carried into the buds of the tree and they disrupt the buds. And then the buds and the good leaves don't develop properly, et cetera, and so on. And the trees go into a decline cycle. And it's killing the beech trees. So one of the things I'm starting to look at, and I'm just beginning to work on it, okay, and I'll say that, okay, because I don't want to say this is gospel, okay, but well, what about what's not working inside of the tree or plant? What part isn't working inside of the tree or the plant? And I believe there's a part not working inside of the tree or plant. The plant is showing stress. The beech tree is stressed. It's actually attracting the nematode. And also probably, I kind of guess, but I'm not 100%, I'm a half nematologist as well as plant pathologist. My guess is the nematodes have also morphed to take advantage of this situation, okay, so they can get into those buds and carry and that's a food source for them. And but I think the way it starts with is to work with the tree or plant to help heal the tree or the plant first, so that they're less susceptible to the nematodes. That's where we're going with this, and I'll talk more about it in the course. So, can humans impact tree or plant health from the inside out? Yes, we believe so. Go ahead,
We
Basia.
believe so. But some people have doubts. So here is a little bit more of the relevant science. So we know that humans can use their focused attention and intention and even the written word to impact water's structure. And we also know that humans can do healings, energy healings with other humans. And that is as a causal influence of consciousness. And that can happen even at a distance, as Lynn McTaggart reports in this book of hers. But our innovative healing method for trees and plants is called tree whispering. So tree whispering is one of our mindful methods based on the idea that you can overlap in bioenergy and in consciousness. Then you can convey intentional messages to a tree's or plant's consciousness that can help to heal it. The messages are conveyed by speaking aloud or by quietly focusing your attention from your own heart and mind.
Okay.
Now, these storm prep whispers were specific targeted messages that we created and used during Hurricane Sandy many years ago. And the people using these whispers helped the trees and plants in the hurricane to strengthen their roots in waterlogged soil, to help their physical structure stay strong, and to help some of them drop their leaves before the strong winds came. And these storm prep whispers also addressed elemental forces and the spirit of the trees and the storm.
So, remember I said the consciousness drives the parts, systems, and functions, is the guiding light for the parts, systems, and functions form, guiding light. That's why if you connect with that consciousness, with these whispers, you can help the plant out. It isn't all I do. I do something completely different. But this is a big help. This gets you started, so that, and we will teach you this in the May course, and this is all about getting in touch with that consciousness. Look, the tree knows a storm is coming. Okay, it absolutely knows a storm is coming. How it can prepare itself, it's not sure. So what we do is work with it with these whispers, tapping into the consciousness of the tree, its consciousness to say, hey, do some of these things. This will help you out. And the consciousness guides the parts, systems, and functions so the tree is stronger and able to withstand whatever that extreme is that's coming.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what these are based on. They're very, very effective. We've used them several times. It's a good starting point to learn to help heal the trees. As I said, I do something completely different, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But you can do this and learn and really have a very effective method that you can follow.
And if you're on our mailing list, you periodically will get a new set of whispers that apply to some climate extreme situation going on somewhere on the planet. Like recently, we sent some out about the fires in California. We have a short story to tell you, though, about how these storm prep whispers came to being. In the days prior to the storm, Jim was visiting his clients.
Yeah, I was going around to the clients all up and down the eastern seaboard because we knew the hurricane was going to come in somewhere. We believed into New Jersey's about in the coast, East Coast, and Connecticut is also part of the East Coast of New Jersey, and also New York.
Around New Jersey,
yeah, New York as well.
Connecticut, New York, New Jersey.
Yeah, and I was going around to each of these clients that were close to the shore. I have many that are close to the shore and working on their trees and helping their trees out and getting the trees ready for the storm. Well, this particular one, this happened to be kind of one of my first stops, really. And this lady's in New Jersey, and I pulled into her driveway. She knew I was coming. She pulled in. She says, "Is there any way you can tell the tree to drop its leaves?" And I said, "Well, I'll work on it." So I did. I worked with the tree. She says, she came out a little bit later. She says, "Is there any way you can tell this tree to start dropping its leaves?" And all of a sudden she's sitting there and the leaves started to fall and rain on her. Okay, literally, the leaves started coming down and raining on her. Okay, and she kind of opened her eyes and said, "Okay, this is good. This is good."
Yeah.
Guys, see, the more leaf matter you have on the trees. This was late in November, late in October. And it was okay that the trees dropped their leaves then, but they had to drop them because that's more weight on the leaves, more weight on the trees, more weight on the branches. And the more they could drop those leaves, then that's less weight on the tree and less resistance to the wind.
Yeah.
So that's what it was all about. And
at the same time, I was back in the office, and I knew that we had to do something in consciousness, in energy, and I needed to send this out to all of the people on our mailing list. So I created the Storm Prep Whispers and emailed them out, and they went viral. People sent them to their friends and more friends and more friends. Well, in about 10 days, when we got our power back, we started hearing from these people on email about how they used the Storm Prep Whispers and how they saved their trees. Most people had very, very little damage, a few twigs in their yard, but they drove down a block away and there was a lot of damage. So these people were very, very happy to use these whispers, and their stories are in our book. Okay, here is another example of consciousness having a causal influence. So we've created a system we call eco-peace treaties. And these are collaborative agreements for coexistence in dynamic balance between living beings who are often in conflict with each other, like, for instance, a disease organism in a tree, and with humans. These are three-way agreements, and they are the subject of our two Live and Let Live books.
So as Basia's saying, an eco-peace treaty is a three-way agreement between the tree or plant, the disease or insect organism, or whatever it might be, and the third part of it is the people. Okay, so all have to be part of this. First of all, I want to tell you, this is not about getting rid of the organism. It's not about killing the organism. It's not about controlling the organism. I get accused of this. You're showing that you're controlling the disease. No, I'm not. Okay. It's about bringing the balance back in nature to where it's supposed to be between the tree and the organism. That's what it's all about. So let me give you a couple of examples. It's a different paradigm. It's not in the kill paradigm, control paradigm, get rid of paradigm. It's in the paradigm of coming into partnership with the trees, plants, diseases, insects. So let me give you an example. This is Phytophthora on beech trees. Very important problem. Okay, comes out. Phytophthora lives in the soil. Tree gets weak, comes up, moves on the tree, and it starts to work and kill the tree. Bleeding canker, they call it. All right. So what happens is I work with the organism, work with the tree. First of all, get the tree healthy. That's the first thing. Get the parts, systems, and functions inside of the tree healthy. That's the first most important step. The second step is to find out where the organism can live. I'm a plant pathologist. I know this organism can live down at the roots of the tree. So what happens is the tree gets healthy, the organism moves back down to the roots, the tree can feed the organism in the rhizosphere of the roots, that zone right around the roots. Guess what? Roots give off an exudate, a root exudate. If that can feed, that feeds a lot of organisms. It can also feed the phytophthora. Okay. And the tree gets, so the tree lives, the phytophthora lives. Now, what do the people have to agree to do? They have to agree several things usually, but one of the main things is they're not going to come in with insecticides or some kind of phosphate, come in there and try to kill the organism. Okay, that's primarily what people have to do, but it's also not to disturb the ecosystem. Try not to disturb this whole ecosystem because we're bringing back balance to the whole thing. Again, this is not control. This is not killing. This is not getting rid of. It's about bringing everything back into balance again. That's what this is all about. Okay, go ahead, Basia. Next slide. This is some. This is we're also working with some deer at a local farm, and you can see the year before when I didn't work with the deer, and then what happened the year I worked with the deer. So I'll tell you what the agreement was. Go to the next slide, and then I'll tell them.
Okay.
Go to the. This was in the garden of that particular farm. Okay, the agreement was with the deer was the plant kingdom agreed to feed the deer on the forest edge. Okay, there's a forest all around this farmhouse, and the deer and the plants on the forest edge agreed to feed the deer. Okay, so that was the first part of it. The second part of the agreement, and well, okay, so that's what the plants did. What did the deer want? Well, the deer wanted food, water, safety, and a place to bear their young. So, okay, the forest was putting on extra food for them on the edge. All right, there's their food. Water, there was plenty of water on the farm. Place to bear their young. Well, it was a nice big area. They had a place to bear their young. How about the safety? Well, what happened is the person in charge of the farm said, okay, if you guys stay out of my garden, I'll cut off no more hunting in the farm. Okay. So there's the there's the person's side of it. Then it came up to, well, how did the deer know? The deer wanted to know, how do we know where you don't want us? Because they roam around, they're all over the place. How do we know where you don't want us? And I went through several things, stakes, this thing, the other thing, wooden stakes, and so on, and finally got to the flags. How about flags, little flags? They said, sounds great. What flags? And so we went through the colors: pink, no; red, no; purple, no; green, yes. Why green? Because we could see green at night. That's what the deer said. We could see green at night. Perfect. So that's why the green flags. Now, I got a couple points for you. I tell people about this agreement, and they think, well, where can I buy those green flags? No, it's not the green flags. The green flags is the marker. The agreement is between the human, the deer, and the plant kingdom. Okay, that's where the agreement is. Okay, it's not about Getting rid of the deer is not about getting rid of anybody. It's about bringing everybody back into balance so everybody's happy. The deer get what they want, the plants get what they want, which is to grow, and the people get what they want, which is to have the garden. Okay, that's how these work. And again, it's a different paradigm. It's a different way of thinking. So I tell you about this. Um, we're not gonna go into a lot of detail about this in the course. What I'm Because you can see the first half of this of an eco peace treaty is getting the plants healthy, working with the plants. That's what we're going to teach you in the course. Then, if you're interested in doing eco peace treaties, I'll teach you how to do it. I'll give you some sense of how to do it. I will tell you, it's a one-by-one situation. There is no magical thread that
But we'll
goes.
have an additional.
There is no magical thread running through the whole thing. How to do it. It takes time. You have to work out with the different organisms. Remember, I'm not standing there holding the deer by their horns and talking to them. Okay, it's connecting with the consciousness of the deer. Same thing with the insects and diseases. I've had more I've had more success with diseases than I have with the insects. Little trouble with insects, probably because I'm a plant pathologist and not an insect person. Okay, probably I'm guessing that's part of it. But because insects, they just tend to just run rampant, and once they get into a situation where there's some food, they just run rampant and run over it. So go ahead, Basia.
Thank you, Dr. Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so more information about the sciences at our school and at our YouTube channels. We'd like to get briefly into the new thinking now. Well, frankly, you've been hearing a lot about new thinking as both of us have been speaking so far. And in the culture, there is a movement toward a new paradigm, toward new thinking. But really, I have to tell you something about the old thinking first. So, when science was being invented in the 16th and 17th century, they had this thinking and beliefs. People can control and dominate nature. People make Science makes people superior to nature. Nature is not alive, it's a thing, and people know best what to do. Well, we all know the results of that thinking in our lives and on the planet in terms of climate extremes. You see, human beliefs cause human actions, and human actions have consequences. The thinking and beliefs that originated when science was being invented are very often invisible to us now. And they are at the core of our climate crisis. So we don't know that we are thinking these thoughts because we are thinking inside of that paradigm. It's beliefs that we are not aware that we are having. And those beliefs cause actions, and actions have consequences. For example, drought, flooding, extreme heat. They're known to be caused by now centuries of human actions. And those extremes hurt the internal functionality of trees and plants. And Dr. Jim will touch more on that in a minute. And that would be here the crops that have to try to exist in drought. Another example is this photo on the right. It's a plan for a multi-year pruning process for this tree. The invisible or unaware beliefs that are underneath this plan could be that trees are things and people know best what to do. The belief is that people don't have to ask the tree or plant because it is a thing. So let me ask you a question. What if this tree needed every single leaf on every single branch in order to make enough food for itself to stay alive? The trouble with conventional approaches is that the people don't pay much attention to the internal functionality of the trees. and they have no methods to heal the internal functionality. And that's why we're here. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. So, the impacts of the old paradigm, climate extremes, and these extremes impact and hurt the internal functionality of trees and plants. And I think we all agree that that's a problem. Well, what do we do about problems? Yes, we try to solve them. But here is what Albert Einstein said: we can't solve problems using the same kind of thinking we used when we created those problems. So that is very often the old thinking, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. So here's another question for us. If a tree is green, does it mean it's healthy on the inside? And let Dr. Jim explain.
Well, no, because what could happen is the tree could be green, but it could have some blocked vascular tissue, or the vascular tissue isn't working properly. So therefore the tree is not uptaking water and nutrients correctly. It's not getting those water and nutrients up into the leaves to make enough food for itself. If it's not making enough food for itself, it's not getting the food out to the growing points, and the circulation is blocked. Then it's not getting the food out to the growing points to grow.
Exactly.
And the other one is three or more stresses lead to decline. And that's very important. Internal functionality is compromised and disconnected. The stress, these are some of the stress factors. Climate extremes are a major problem now. Improper pruning, chemicals to some extent, a lot of times, especially if you're using the wrong chemical on a crop or a tree, that puts a lot of stress on it. But climate extremes are a big problem, as I explained to you. Warming and these constant shifts from warm to cold, very tough on the trees and plants. Their internal functionality gets stressed. And then the weather changes, the stress factor changes, but that doesn't mean the tree instantly changes. So and then what happens is it could take years for the stress to show up in the tree, and sometimes 3 or 4 years. So what we're saying here is, look, tree might get stressed. First year, you might lose 10% of its leaves. You'll never notice that. Second year, you might lose 20%. You'll never notice it. You got to get 3 or 4 or 5 years up the line before you begin to say, oh, this tree is very thin up top, hardly has any leaves up top. Its leaves are very small. Okay. And then you're saying, okay, the tree is stressed. Well, by that time, the insects and diseases are attracted to that tree. So they come in. Again, removing the stress factor doesn't repair the internal functionality of the tree.
So I want to explain the old thinking and the old actions. We call this outside in thinking. Look, it's not bad. We're not saying not to do these things. It's okay to do these things, and they can be appropriate. But here's the problem. Want to cover like
Yeah, well,
pruning as an
pruning.
example?
Yeah, pruning's a perfect example. Is what the Basia used before. Yeah, tree maybe needs pruning, but ask it what's going on for the tree. Find out what that internal functionality is going on for the tree first. If the tree is trying to make food for itself, that's not the time to be pruning the tree. Okay, that's a perfect example. The tree needs all the leaves it can to make as much food as it can for itself. So
Yes,
that's important.
that's
Outside in is okay, but ask the tree questions. Find out what's going on for the tree first. That's what's important. Go ahead.
yes, because trees can have their inner functionality compromised, and they can be living in climate change conditions. And these outside in kinds of approaches don't heal the compromised internal functionality. And let's apply this now to crops. Again, this is not bad. These actions are appropriate. For instance, influencing local conditions. A lot of farmers now are playing music in their fields to the trees and plants. Wonderful. Go ahead and do that. Just recognize that that is outside in thinking. Or there are new farming approaches that focus a lot on the soil. Yes, soil health is extremely important. It's very important to focus on improving soil conditions. But we ask you to recognize that that is an outside-in kind of thinking. Just fixing the soil doesn't heal compromised internal functionality. And so many plants and crops can be compromised on the inside for a variety of reasons, including climate change conditions. So we are suggesting a new mindset. We call it inside out, restoring healthy parts, systems, and functions from the inside out. And what we mean here is asking the tree or plant's consciousness for information,
using your knowledge of the tree or plant, or if it's a crop, using your knowledge to ask the questions, okay, to ask the right questions. That's what we're saying.
Yes, overlapping with the spirit of the tree to share information, avoiding assuming anything.
Consciousness.
And yes, and consciousness and spirit, yes. And using our 4C approach, which is connecting experiences, communication, collaboration, and co-creation. We have another important question. If the tree isn't making enough food to support itself, how would you know? Well, would you do intuitive interspecies communication? In other words, would you ask questions and get answers? Yes, of course you would. And many of you believe that you can communicate, and many of you have developed your sensitivities to communicate, to ask questions, to get answers. Very important. That's at the core of so many of the things that we talk about. But you need to ask yourself, when I ask my questions, which paradigm am I using? Are you using the old paradigm, the outside-in thinking? Are your questions based on wanting to control, or based on some sort of idea that you know best, or that the plant has to do something for you, or the crop, or there's some sort of a self-oriented idea there. And we call that outside-in thinking. It's not bad. You just have to know that you're doing it. And here's the important part. Many beliefs are invisible to us. So we have to be really honest to find out what motivation is underneath our thoughts. So we hope that you will begin to use new paradigm thinking, inside out thinking. In other words, to have a true humble partnership with nature beings as equals, to come from their point of view and to collaborate. And coming from their point of view could mean imagining or feeling as if, or experiencing that you are seeing through their eyes as if they had eyes. Imagine that you could be standing in their roots. Imagine that you yourself could be being the tree. So again, we have to be very honest. And of course, applying appreciation and respect and having feelings of unity. And all this is about partnership. The new paradigm is really partnership as equals. And there's one more piece of this that you can also do is ask yourself, whose goal do I have in mind? This can help you to be honest. So if you are nature-centric, then your questions will be about helping the green being reach its goals while you are reaching your goals. You cooperate. You are working in partnership. You co-create. Then everybody wins. So you're asking questions in this new paradigm of partnership. And what if you find out that the tree or plant or crop isn't making enough food to support itself? What would you do? Well, you might want to do something from the outside in, because there are conventional methods that you may use. But we would like to teach you to do something to help the plant or tree reach its goals for its life from the inside out.
So you want me to cover this?
Yes.
Okay. So we want to ask questions to the tree or plant about its inner health. Are you making enough food to support yourself? Is your circulation system working in good flow? Are you growing? Other questions. It's all about the parts, systems, and functions I mentioned to you. And we'll go more into that into the course. Finding out what's not operating inside of that tree and helping bring that tree back to health again. Okay. And then after you have asked the tree questions about its inner health, you ask appropriate, you use the appropriate mindful methods. Can I help?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you'll learn some of these mindful methods. Those are the whispers Basia talked to you about. Like I said, you'll find out because you're tapping into the consciousness of the tree, and you're going to be helping, working with that consciousness of the tree to help bring back that health inside of the tree. Then you can ask which good tree care or gardening or farming practice it may support its inner health. Look, you've probably, if you're a farmer or a tree care person, you've probably already done the right things for your tree or crop. Okay, so you've probably, but it never hurts to ask what else it might want. For example, does the tree need some compost? Does it need some kind of a soil amendment? Fine, all those things that'll help support the tree and help support that internal functionality. We're not saying don't use those things. We're saying use them as support, but go with what the tree needs, not what you think it needs. Okay, and asking the right questions of the tree. So yes, that's outside in, but that supports the inside out of restoring that inner health and functionality to the tree. This is a client of mine. She's really good. Loves her soil amendments. Absolutely loves them. And she'll walk around with me to each of the trees and ask about certain soil amendments on each tree. Does the tree want this? When does it want it? How much does it want? And it's usually a spring and a fall type thing. How much does it want? When does it want it? And how much? And it's a great way to work with somebody. I really appreciate the client because she's willing to work with us and to keep the trees healthy and strong. And she wants to do all the right things that she knows that she can do to help the trees while I'm working with the internal functionality of the trees.
Yes, so let me add how important it is to know that with that client and with all Dr. Jim's clients, he is doing the inside out work with the tree first to heal its inner functionality. And then the outside in work supports that. So we'll talk about the new methods. This is, we'll just do this very quickly. If trees and plants are alive and intelligent, why can't they heal themselves?
Well, I started to talk to you a little bit about this when I was talking about forest fires before. Because when they're sick, but this is the same when they're sick, they get stuck or confused. They can't manage their inner resources. And I've seen this, I have to tell you, I've seen this time and time again. They can't manage, they don't know what direction to go in to start to grow again, what parts, systems, and functions to start running again, to moving, to have that path to healing. It's helping them determine a path to healing. That's what I help the trees do, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But that's what we help the trees do. You do this, you do this, you do this, and you do it in cooperation with the trees. The trees saying, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. And you get about 4, 5, 6 things up the road, and the tree the tree says, okay, I can go now. I can move. Also, the sequence of systems not in sync, right timing or entrainment. Big thing. That gets out of order. That doesn't happen automatically. And it's very much taken for granted. It's very poor to take it for granted that those things operate in sync and entrainment. Those parts, systems, and functions operate in sync and entrainment all the time. They don't. When the tree is stressed, they're not running, they're not operating in sync or entrainment. Then they can't grow. They get into this negative cycle, not making enough food, insufficient circulation, little or no growth, and then they fall out of community, and then negative results start to occur.
So the conclusion is a tree's or plant's internal functionality and community interconnections can be healed, repaired, restored, resumed with human and plant consciously collaborative interactions. We call them conversations in overlapping bioenergy and in consciousness.
Again, remember what I said. When a tree is in decline, or it's been hurt in a way, it's stuck. It doesn't know which way to move. And they only have so many resources. And sometimes they're disconnected from the resources. They just don't know where the resources are. And they don't know what function to do first. I've had many instances where this is. So you work with them step by step path to healing so that they can bring that functionality back. That works for them. It doesn't work for me. It works for them. Okay? The tree works. Then the tree becomes healthy. I win because I've helped the tree be healthy, and the tree wins because it goes on to be a healthy tree. Everybody wins.
So, restoring health from the inside out. These are our mindful methods. Tree whispering, also called plant whispering. The approaches are the same because everybody's a member of the plant kingdom. We also teach eco-peace treaties. A little bit more advanced is our Green Centrics program. And then we also are going to be doing a mystery school, a high level education in collaborative ecological healing and paradigm jumping. So that's where we're headed. Now, this is what we currently plan to teach in the May 23rd. These dates are not right. I'm sorry. 23rd to 25th live class. I apologize. It'll be about restoring health from the inside out. We teach collaboration. That would be using what you already know to ask questions, being more sensitive. That's that connection and communication, how to be neutral, and using higher thinking. We'll also talk a lot about plant kingdom interconnectivity, which is something that Jim is working on very much in his advanced work now, and resilience in climate extremes and balance in ecosystems. And of course, we'll teach how to use tree whispering, which is our consciously collaborative, physiologically correct, botanically targeted, mindful methods. We're moving on to a quick view of new results. So this is what Dr. Jim does. But what he really does is based on our friend Albert Einstein.
Concerning matter, we have been all wrong. What we call matter is really energy. Got that? Energy. Whose vibration has been lowered as to be perceivable to the senses. There is no matter. There's only light and sound. It's that energy. It's working with the energy of the understanding we're an energy and the trees and plants are an energy. Okay? And it's working energy to energy with the trees and plants. That's what this is all about. But go ahead, Basia, and move to the next slide. So what specifically do I do? I get into an intuitive collaborative exchange with the trees. I assume I know nothing. I ask questions to find out how the tree is stuck, what's not working inside of the tree, what's not operating, what's not connected to what inside of the tree. And I'll give you a couple of examples of this in a minute. And then I collaborate with the tree's spirit, life force, and consciousness. That consciousness, remember, the consciousness guides the parts, systems, and functions. That's what I'm working with. Okay, to say we can do this step, this step, this step. Okay, go ahead.
But here's his secret.
In our collaboration, the tree or plant or crop or forest, and I discuss a path to healing that is possible for them to accomplish. It's not I say it's possible for them. They have to say it's possible for them. Okay. And they do. Okay. That's what goes on. It's simple. It's easy. It's something they can do. They see the path to healing. Remember, they're stuck, little like humans, get very sick and they get stuck. Same thing happens with the trees and plants. The path is botanically correct, physiologically targeted, and spirit guided information so the tree, plant, crop, forest can heal itself from the inside out, resume interconnectivity, and become climate resilient. That's what this is all about. It's not about fixing the outside or removing the stress factor. And it's indirectly about soil health and fungal networks. Again, soil health and fungal networks support that internal functionality or that internal healing inside of the tree.
So, why do you want to learn from us? Well, we've been developing this system and doing research since 2002. We've improved results, we've created classes, we've done it all already. All you have to do is increase your sensory and intuitive sensitivity. Be willing to jump into a new, higher way of thinking, a new paradigm, a new way of being, and to engage with the mystery of it all. We don't have all the answers, and nature is slowly revealing a few of her answers, and we can do all this together. So that's why you want to learn from us. We have already blazed the path.
Very good.
And now Dr. Jim would like to just show you a few of his results.
Yes, this is a maple tree on the New Jersey coast shore. Again, you can see how sick it looked in September 23. Again, what it looked like in August of 24. Now, understand, you might say, well, how do you know you did that? Well, because the tree was in this gradual decline for a few years. It didn't just instantly get like this. All right. It was in a gradual decline, and all of a sudden it turns around to be a healthy tree after it's been in decline a few years. You know something has happened. And usually it's the work we do with the internal functionality of that tree. Same thing with this tree. Again, this tree was in decline for several years. Okay. And brought the tree back, got it starting to grow again, did some pruning, get the dead stuff off of the tree.
We didn't do the pruning.
We didn't do the pruning.
The client had the pruning done, but very carefully with our recommendations.
Yes. So the pruning was done, and you can see how the tree has grown, started to fill in, and once again, very important that tree is starting to grow again. These people love this tree. You can see this tree right on this house. They got several pieces of advice: take that tree down, take that tree down. They said, no, you don't understand. This is talking to others. They said, you don't understand. We're not taking this tree down. It's just not coming down. It'll come down when it's dead, but we're going to bring this tree back. And they wanted to bring that tree in. Okay, here's a good, perfect example of a path to healing. This tree was transplanted the year before, and it was transplanted in July, and in August, late June, early July, and by August it dropped all of its leaves. Wondered, is this tree going to make it or not? Got to be about mid-May. Okay, this is a honey locust. Got to be about mid-May, and the tree wasn't putting on any buds, and everybody was starting to get a little bit concerned about it. So I started to work with the tree. And I said, started to work with it. I said, so what's going on? Tree says, look, I have a limited amount of food. And if I use all of my food to send out the buds and it doesn't work, I'm a goner. So I said, okay, I won't live. Basically, that's what the tree is saying. So I worked with the tree to give it a full path to healing. Tree still said no. So I had to work with it some more. It took me quite a long time to work with this tree. Finally brought the tree around. Tree says, okay, I'll give it one more try. I'll give it one more try. I'll push out buds. And that middle picture is 3 days later after I treated the tree, and you can start to see the buds starting to come out on the tree. And that's what the middle picture is. And then July of that same year, you can see what that tree looked like. Okay, started to fully leaf out. And that's what that's all about. Remember, the trees get confused and they don't know the path to healing. And that's where humans coming in, working with that tree consciousness can help the consciousness sort out a path to healing. And that's what we're going to teach you. We'll teach you to work with that consciousness of the trees to help the trees sort it out so that they can begin to grow again, either in trees or with your crop, no matter what the situation is. So your crops are healthy and your trees are healthy. That's what we're up to here. It's a different paradigm. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, just go through it real quick. Real quick. These are some sycamores. Go ahead. Skip.
Okay.
This is emerald ash borer on ash trees. You can see some excellent results here. I got to honestly tell you, I have had a lot of trouble with insects, especially the emerald ash borer. I've had results, good results, but this one was especially good, and but it kind of mixed results. I guess that's what I want to say, and it's just because the insects tend to gather and really attack hard, and I haven't quite worked it out. Remember, I said it takes time to work these things out sometimes with the insects and diseases. So I haven't, I'm more familiar with diseases because I'm a plant pathologist, nematologist, so I can work with them much easier. Go ahead, Basia. And this is Phytophthora on a black walnut. Next, this is Phytophthora on a
Coastal
coal
live
live
oak.
oak. Okay, this is in in the San Francisco Bay Area, California. This is a celebrity client. For those of you who might be familiar with the singer Joan Baez, this is her property. She loves her trees, and the nice story about this is these trees were hurt. The arborist that was working on the trees had tried everything he can to help these trees out. He was unable. We had met him at a show. He told the woman, look, I've done all I can to help the trees. Call these guys, meaning call us. They could probably help you more. One of the things we had to do was, yes, get the internal functionality of the trees going again, but we had to work with the Phytophthora on the roots and on the tree to help bring that eco-peace treaty into effect. This is, again, another eco-peace treaty with diseases on apples. Again, the apples get black spot and powdery mildew, heavy. It's a three-way agreement again. The apple tree, well, first of all, the homeowner agrees to leave the grass taller underneath the tree and to leave any diseased leaves or diseased apples that fall from the tree on the ground. Just leave them on the ground. Don't remove them because that gives the disease a place to live. Okay. And then they don't come up onto the tree. And that was the basic agreement. Again, that's the eco peace treaty, but people are an important piece of that. This is cold wet during seedlings drowning. Coming again, eco peace treaty. There's
No.
some.
Oh, that one wasn't, no,
that wasn't
sorry,
an
that
eco
one wasn't an eco
peace treaty. No, that was just healing
Just-
the internal functionality of the trees, of the plant. Go ahead. This is some leeks. Go ahead. This is some corn. This is some beans. Again, thinner, less germination on the in the untreated versus the treated. This is some cabbages before and a little bit later. And again, about differences, dealing with your need to see differences. So this is for both a tree person and person who's interested in the trees and the crop. You know, if you sense that something isn't correct inside of your tree or your plant, you know, that's the time to start asking questions. Don't wait till you see the problem occurring. Okay, start asking because if you have a good open sense, you can feel it. Something's not quite right. Ask the tree what's going on for it. Ask the plants what's not going on for it. And on the flip side is after you might help the tree or the plant with the path to healing, you might not see any difference right away. And you're saying, well, what difference did that make? Well, the thing you don't know is that the crop could have gotten worse or the tree could have gotten worse, gone into a decline cycle. You don't know. So you might have been able, the differences may or may not show, but they might have gone into a decline, especially in the case of like a crop like this. All right. So don't get tied up in seeing the results all the time. Go ahead.
So we're
Um,
asking you to move toward enlightened stewardship.
wait a
And
minute. We have about 5 minutes more. Is that okay?
yes, yes. So we want to find out what you want to learn in the workshop in May. And you can either ask us here or ask us questions. And you're welcome to also email us with your responses. Dr. Jim's Whisperer at thetreewhisperer.com. And mine is naturepartner at partnerwithnature.org.
And they are both on our website also, the Gaia Sira website. So, and there's one question about the electromagnetic ecology of the plants and the people, if you work also with that.
With the
Electromagnetic.
Yeah, because
no,
we also did days with that, you know.
yeah,
Well, we feel generally that when a tree, plant, or person is healthy, really healthy on the inside, that can minimize the effects of anything electromagnetic. You have to be healthy on the inside and properly interconnected together, and that makes trees, plants, and people more resilient.
Yeah, well, okay. Thank you. We could go more into that, but I'll leave it at that. And then also there's a question if there is, how do you do this talking with trees? Is it all about telepathy with the tree or the plant?
it's connecting with the energy of the tree. You got an energy in the tree, you got a consciousness in the tree, and it's about connecting with that consciousness, just what we said in the talk. It's about connecting with the consciousness of the tree and understanding. Look, it's a not a left brain logical function. It's a right brain intuitive function.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what it is. So
Yeah.
you can hear, you can feel, you can sense things, and that's what it is. It's a right brain intuitive function.
Mm-hmm.
And
And it's
there,
very much like having a normal conversation with a person. It's just you have to be able to be sensitive and hold that conversation within yourself.
yeah. So maybe it's a bit of telepathic communication, but you say you connect with the energy of a tree or a plant.
Again, your energy and the tree is energy. It's
Yeah.
not, you're all one. Okay.
Yeah, right. Oh, yes, we're all one in the end. That's true. And what can you do for farmers if the crops are not sick?
Well, then they're going to have a nice, healthy
Someone
crop.
would like to learn in the course in May. One of the
When,
participants.
yeah, wouldn't you like to know what you can do when you do have a healthy, when you do have a problem crop? You can't tell me. I'll tell you what. I've worked with a lot of farmers, and not every year do you have a healthy crop. Okay, I don't care.
No,
You
no.
know. All right. So you might have a healthy crop this year, but maybe not next year. Or the one crop doesn't mean one crop might be healthy, another one might not be healthy.
And if they look healthy, do you also talk with them and find out if it's really true? I mean, a
Yes.
person might be looking very healthy, but then still being sick somewhere.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we would go into that in the course, I suppose.
Yes, very much.
And then how important is knowing about possible options to find out a path for healing? Can you know nothing about tree care and still help by offering your care and listening?
Well, some basic information. Yeah. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
y- y-
Go ahead.
Most people that we teach tree whispering with and even green centrics, you don't need to have an advanced degree in plants or botany. All you need to know is simple things like roots, xylem and phloem, leaves, buds, some very simple things. And you can still make a difference with that tree or plant's health um, uh, just by having that kind of a conversation with it.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I went to a promotion a few weeks ago, and the man who discovered that certain bacterium, which destroy all kinds of dangerous insects, and so that would otherwise attack the plant. These plants, what he saw, it was not only at the roots, but the bacteria went also up, and then from that dropped down on the soil so that the soil saved the plant from its attackers. And I wonder if you also communicate with the fungi and with the bacteria, because everything is connected, or is this involved in what you do?
You you certainly can. Anyone can speak with any living being, and it can be part of the healing process. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for the dignity that speaks through all of this, the respect for lives on themselves. I really appreciate it. It's very important and dignifying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Well, I don't think there are. The recording will be put on the website of Gaia Sira, and I want to thank you both very much for this extremely interesting talk. The numbers for the course have gone up. We are now at 10. We have place for 50 people, so, well, I'm sure there will be more people.
Thank you. We are really looking forward to it. It's always lovely for us to teach live in person.
Yes,
Using the technology here with Zoom, yes, it helps, but it's just not the same as being right with the trees and plants and with people.
right. Yes, and we are free to work with the trees and the plants in the grounds of the monastery. First, they were a bit hesitant. Well, I said they can only have a lot of profit from that. I mean, we are working to make them more healthy if they're not healthy. So you would be very grateful, I suppose.
Oh,
I'm sure they will be after we've seen what you have accomplished. Really great respect for what you have done. Being
thank you so
contact
much. We
about.
appreciate this opportunity and we hope that everyone has taken something into their hearts to go out and be with trees and plants.
Well, I think that will have been the case, definitely. Yes, well, okay.
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
this
Thank you very much.
inauguration, the real one.
Thank you.
Inaugurating our communication with the plant kingdom. Yeah, yeah. Great. Thank you all.